Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, StrangeNet here. So today I'm going to be doing a mining video and whether it is worth mining in 2023. And generally the answer to that is yes, no, maybe. And I will explore the ins and outs and why I go through these three issues every time I don a mining ship in this video. So this will be Null Sec and Null Sec only because it is the only place I have ever really mined. And for the first 10-15 years of playing EVE, mining, I hated mining with a loathing passion. It was not something I enjoyed doing. I enjoyed shooting at other people, I enjoyed building stuff, and mining was just, it was dull, it was boring, it didn't pay a great deal. I missed the Referral era where you could mine with a Referral and make ridiculous amounts of ISK. About a year ago, I wanted to utilize a lot of my alts, and mining is one of the better ways if you have a lot of accounts to utilize them and to be able to make use of them. So that's why I slowly started getting into mining, and it's just kind of snowballed from there really. Now if you're a serious miner, you're obviously looking at the Mackinac, or you're going to be looking at the Hulk for mining, either anomalies in Null Sec or moon mining. Now moon mining is where the real ISK is at in the game. Just a quick rundown, I'm not going to go into it too heavily, but basically the two main differences between the Hulk and the Mac. The Hulk has a better mining yield but has a smaller ore bay. The general ore bay is 11,000, so it mines faster but has a smaller bay. For the Hulk, the Mackinac has a larger bay but mines slower. Depends what you want. If you've only got a handful of ships, then obviously you want to try and maximize your yield. So therefore the Hulk can be incredibly handy. If you've got more ships, then the Mackinac means less clicking. Yeah, it can be a little less stressful and a lot less macro management. So again, the two choices are there: fast versus slow, large cargo versus smaller cargo. So you pick your poison, you take your... So when the oracles changed from being able to mine to being more of a support ship, being in 0-0, oracles are able to compress moon ore and give massive boosts. So this is a Hulk at max skills, and we're getting 18.6 M3. Now that will go up to 49.6, I think it is, with max Oracle skills supporting. So obviously the two there combined is you're bringing in an M3 of roughly 100 per second. Now that's important. We'll go back to that in a second. So this website is fantastic. I will link it in the description so anybody can play around with it. But basically what you're looking at, you're putting in the amount that your ore miner mines per second in here, and the refining that we have in the Alliance is 0.88, and that gives you your income per second down the right hand side here, and obviously the types of ore on the left hand side. Loperite obviously is the single best ore in the game at the moment. Now this website isn't always 100% accurate, but it's accurate enough for what it is that we want. Jackpots basically are when a moon pops, that it has the potential chance, and I think it's a small chance, I think it's 5% chance of it actually being a jackpot, which means you get 100% of the overall ore. And Bountiful, you get rocks in general on a standard pop, but there's less of them. So we'll go with the standard ore just because it's more reasonable. So for Loperite, you get 146,000 ISK a second, so over 60 seconds, which is your minute, you're making 8 million ISK a minute, and assuming you can mine for 60 minutes, it's 528 million ISK per hour, which, let's face it, is really, really good with one character. And again, that goes down the line, so we won't do Zircon because, again, you get different levels of moon. So this is an R64, which is the best, R64, R64, R32, 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 R32. Now, it doesn't always go that the R30, if 64s are the best and the R32s are the second best and R16s, etc. Because we have an R16 here, which is the Sprite. Yep. And you can see that's nestled in here in between. So again, this is an R16, the same as these down here, but this one is worth more at the moment because it is giving platinum. So again, the more in demand the material is, it usually goes in order. So R64 is the best, followed by R32, but it doesn't always follow that order specifically. So let's do the R32. So you get 35,000 ISK per second. You times that by your 60. It's only 2.1 million ISK a minute, and you times that by an hour, assuming you get to mine for an hour, is 126 million ISK, which still isn't to be sniffled at. That's not bad. There are other activities that can obviously yield that, and this is assuming that you are mining with a maxed out Referral in a maxed out Hulk. If you are mining in a Mackinac with a maxed out Referral, you get roughly 70 M3 per second from your mining lasers. And again, you can see how that affects it down here. So again, work it out yourself, see if it's worth it. But basically, I'm usually mining with 10 to 11 characters. So even if I'm doing, like in the Mackinacs, 700 yield, again, you can see some of the, if we are doing the best ore, which is rare because obviously, and again, more people turn up to the R64, so it's very unlikely that you'll ever get an hour on it. But again, million ISK a minute is 60 million ISK. A million ISK per second, giving you 60 million ISK per minute. And again, times that over the course of an hour, and you're looking at 3.6 billion ISK. Get a jackpot on that, and obviously you double it. So get a jackpot at R64 upright moon. And you managed to see if you got 10 characters, you could be making 7.2 billion ISK, which is pretty insane, really. So, what's a more reasonable level to be looking at? So, yeah, let's go back down to where were we? Let's do the spyrite. 224,000 ISK per second, 14 million ISK a minute, almost a billion ISK a minute for your 10 characters. Yeah, pretty good going. Now, assuming you change that to Hulks, looking at 1,000. Let's do that again. So 325 times 60 times 60, you're looking at 1.2 billion ISK an hour. So if you can manage mining with multiple ships, obviously there are moons popping all the time, you can make very good ISK. Now, assuming obviously that is 10 characters. So, yeah, obviously not everybody has 10 characters, but if you do, you can. Again, it's one of them activities that scales up very nicely, mining. Now, some of the problem I have with mining is that, and again, this is, one alliance specifically related. I don't have really any other experience in any of the other alliances, so again, mileage may differ. Yeah, I've ran 2 abyssal sites this morning and made 730 million ISK after all expenses taken out, which is above and beyond what I would normally make for running a tier 5 abyssal site. And I have a video on this coming, I'm sure, as whether it's good enough to release, but I've got some playing around to do, but that's by the by. The thing with abyssal sites is I can run as many as I want, whenever I want, without the hassle of having to have a fully maxed out Oracle on site, and obviously moving around 10 characters. Now, you can move them around in Oracle, you can bridge nowadays, and I'll cover that if there's enough interest or whatnot, but you can't always rely on a moon to be available. There's things happen, there's hostiles in Null, there's other things that can take you out. Obviously, there's always the risk of being exploded by another capsuleer. There's lots of ifs, buts, and maybes that come into the equation. So, although 3.6 billion ISK an hour is very nice, the chances of mining an R64 for an hour is not particularly reasonable. You'll probably get about 30 to 40 minutes in a good day, because a lot of people obviously come to them because they're the best moons, and you make an absolute ton of ISK by mining them. So yeah, and again, you've got to wait for moons to pop. They're not always available at the times you want them or can run them. There's lots of things that basically can stop you. And again, time. So again, some moons pop at 11:30 at night, and that's great if you're available, but you know, personally I'll be going to bed in half an hour. So moving a whole mining fleet over to where I'm going to be doing and mining for 10 minutes just isn't worth it, where again I could jump online and run an abyssal site in 10-15 minutes and make a good 250 million ISK. Yes, it's less, but again it's content on demand, and I get this kind of YOLO effect where it just isn't necessarily worth mining sometimes versus doing abyssal sites because of the hassle of setting it up, and so I say all the things I've just covered there into why and what can stop you. And again, as well, the 3.6 billion ISK, we'll take that as a round. Asteroids pop. Sometimes you don't always get your mining lasers going. You don't always see ones that have stopped. So again, that's perfect scenario and perfect conditions, which even if the Sprite, you can still be making a good 800 million ISK an hour. But you can't do it whenever you want. You can't just log on now. For instance, there's no moons to be able to mine at the moment. Now, I can do anomalies, but in comparison, anomalies pay so poorly. It's painful. So even with maxed out hulks, say we've got 10 of them. Where are we? The vast majority of it is Bistot. And again, you're more than likely going to have a porpoise on site. So instead of making 100 M3 per second, you're more likely to be looking at 60. So 60 is 13. So what does that work out? 13 a second times 60 times an hour means you're making 46 million ISK. Even if I had 10 alts doing that, it's only, I say only, it's only 500 mil. But it's a lot of hassle. It's a lot of moving around. It's good, but again, that's 10 characters doing that, or potentially 11 characters because one of them's sitting in a porpoise, or 9 characters if you've got the 10 characters. So, yeah, it's not quite good enough for the amount of stuff and assets that you have to have. And again, this is with ore strip miners. So these are 250 mil a pop, so that's what, 500 mil there plus the ship. You're almost looking at a billion ISK per ship. Yeah, okay, it's more like 700 mil, but who's counting? So that's a lot of ISK to be risking on each ship when it's making. Oh, let's just do the math, shall we? So we've got what was it? So we'll say 750. I'll tell you what, we'll take the base. So 728 million divided by, what was it, 46 million ISK. So it's going to take us 15.8 hours to pay that back for each ship. So yes, you may be making 500 mil, but it's going to take you 15 hours before that investment has paid for itself. And basically, if you do end up exploding all your ships, it's not really that much of a problem. So yes, you could argue that in the Abyss, obviously, you're taking a huge amount of risk, and that it does take off time to pay off the ships. But again, the point that I generally have and the problem I get to is I can run the Abyss anytime I want without having, and I don't need 10 characters for it either. Again, I can quite happily do the frigates in 3 characters and make a third of the amount of ISK with half the amount of hassle and 0 amount of the downtime that it takes that I have with mining. So I enjoy mining. Okay, I'll rephrase that. I like the potential ISK that I can pull in with mining. And again, when I've got 10 characters in hulks and you're mining, there's a lot of macro going on. There's a lot of stuff to be juggling where you can use the macadors and have a lot less input. So you can make it as busy or as click intensive as you want, or you can make it less intensive. So that's kind of a bonus. But obviously with the abyssal sites, there's no downtime. There's no real downsides to them either. I don't have to worry too much about people, hostiles. I don't have to worry about the moons being full of people. 150 people turn up to a moon and they'll guzzle it in minutes, or whether there is a maxed out oracle that we have on the site, Because again, if the roll call doesn't turn up, you can't compress the ore. If you can't compress the ore, you have to make lots of trips back to the station. And with a lot of characters, it's really click intensive. It's not much fun, and it's not something you want to be doing, particularly for any length of time, unless you hate yourself. So, yeah, that's how I try and come back to mining, because again, it is, with a decent amount of characters, it's one of the best income sources in the game if you can get the right moon at the right time and it pops at the time that you need it to when you're online and all the rest of that jam. So it's great ISK, but it's only great if and when it's available. So that is me, I think, for that video. I do enjoy mining some of the time. I do enjoy the abyssal sites, and sometimes I'm a bit torn in which is the best ISK for my time invested. So yeah, you know, that's pretty much it. Mining is great, can be great ISK, can be a right pain in the ass as well. So with that, thanks for your time, thanks for listening. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you again soon.